What is up, gang? Justin here, aka No Good Comics, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight we are talking New Mutants with oh, hold on a second, I gotta do this right. I'm just so thrown off. Let's get a proper greeting here.
Hi, my name is Chris Claremont. You're watching Omni X-Men.
Oh, that's right, Omni X-Men. Yes, I got the omnibus right here, and we are talking New Mutants. This is issue 22 tonight that we're talking. It's been a couple weeks if you guys have been following along. Took a little 2-week break for some personal stuff, but we're back and excited to be here to talk some more X-Men, specifically New Mutants goodness. And of course, it's not just me; it is also my co-host and good friend John from John's Comics Kids. John,
hey, we're gonna relearn how to do YouTube, folks. It's been a while.
I'm like hot pressing all these buttons. I'm like Tony Stark here with all these different gadgets. I don't know what is going on.
Oh, I love that. That was amazing. Yes. Woo. Vacation. We took a little break. Yes. We're back for a couple of weeks back to back here to reignite the power.
Yeah, reignite with a rather short issue. I mean, we'll see how things go here.
Well, yeah, and they're building a bigger story that covers like 4 issues here, so it's kind of an ongoing larger story than they've done up to now.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, well, I'm excited for tonight, and hope you're doing well, John. I feel like it's been 2 years.
It's been long enough that
I missed you, man.
Totally changed. Yeah. We forgot how to do this stuff, and it's just it's a mess.
You should have had like a really long beard. Right. Next time I'll do that.
Oh, time has passed so long.
Missed opportunity. Well, we'll want to remind everybody to make sure you're following John. You're subbed up to him because we will be back on his channel next week. If you guys don't know, we do the show every other Tuesday at 9 o'clock on back and forth on each other's channel here. So, make sure you're subbed up to him if you're not already. We got a great guest tonight, John. Somebody who he's been on my channel before, but it is technically his first time for Omni X-Men. He is a diehard X-Men fan, and I'm happy to call him a mutant brother. Of course, we're talking about our man Dan, aka Dan's X-Men Comics. Dan!
Oh, love you guys. Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for being with us. How you doing?
Pretty good. I was cramming for tonight because I wanted to make sure I had the top of knowledge.
My guy.
What we're bringing in here. So, yeah. Again, thanks for thinking of me. Highly anticipated. I was excited to join you guys.
Hell yeah.
Another Council of X member coming in here.
Yes. Right. Shout out to the Council of X.
We're pilfering Ryan's homies here.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. And hey, for those watching right now, or if you're watching the replay, if you guys don't know Dan, or if you've never talked to him before or followed him in any case on the interwebs, make sure you do so. His information's in the description below. You can hit him up over on Instagram. I know you and you're usually always over on Ryan's channel, Colossus Collector. You guys also did a live stream on IG recently, selling some books and stuff like that. So Dan's all over the place. So, but you should definitely be following him and reach out to him if you ever want to talk some X-Men comics. So
always happy to chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Justin.
100%, dude. So couple things before we say hello to the chat. Want to remind everybody, if you're here with us now live, to stick around for after the show, meaning after we break down New Mutants 122, because we have some questions based on last episode or last issue from 2 weeks ago, technically 3 weeks ago. And so we'll be asking questions on that, and you have a chance to get your name on the prize wheel at the end of the season, which is coming up in June. I can't believe it's middle of March practically already. So, if you guys are looking to win some really cool books and X-Men stuff, including a really cool, unique piece of artwork from our good friend Rosko, Geek Out with Rosko. He is our featured artist of the season. His links are in the description below as well. And if you want to try to win some artwork from him, you can, or you could reach out to him and get a commission piece yourself directly. You could always go that route as well and support your local artists and friendly artists. So Rosko, we love you, man. Other than that, let's say a quick hello to the chat. See a lot of people hanging out, tailgating early on. Matt in Clemson, 2:55 Eastern time, hanging out. Said he's been looking forward to tonight. Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you, brother. We got my man, James Las Cruces from New Mexico. Hello, my friend. Hope all is well. I know he's gone through some recent troubles. And condolences to you and your family, James. Hope all is well for you, my friend. We appreciate you jumping in here. We got my man Ryan, aka Magic Lasso, in the chat as well. What is going on, Ryan? He goes, hi, old mutants. Hi, chat. Hi, Rachel Dinners. Hi, Deanna Ross. He's got the whole lineup. Love it. Love it. Let's see. We got Old Wolf Tony in the chat. What's going on, Tony? Howdy, sir. Let's see. Scrolling through. Don't know who that guy is. Gonna keep going. Adam makes stuff up. What is up, Adam?
Yeah.
Good to see you, my friend. We also got Stevie in the chat. Conlin Comics saying happy Tuesday. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was our last guest last time, so
yes,
if you missed it,
right.
Catch that replay.
That's right. He's got the edge tonight with some of the questions he could answer potentially. So we'll see how he does. Tony, I'm drinking some Johnny Walker Black, sir. The usual.
Water.
Yeah, I got the same. Right here. Some water.
Johnny.
I was like, I'm not. You know what? I told my wife, I'm gonna have a beer, and she goes, eh. And I go, okay. No, I'm not.
You're like, I'm joking. I was joking.
Yeah. It's Tuesday.
I'm just kidding.
Judgment. All that judgment.
That's great. I love it. Yes, Tuesday. We got Hot Rod's Garage in the chat. What is up, Rod? Let's see. Scrolling. Our good friend Candace Barbosa in the chat as well. What is going on, Candace? Good to see you as always. Let's see. People saying hi to more people. I think, did I get everybody? From when? Like the last 2 Tuesdays we were off, Adam. So
from February 18th, my guy.
Yeah. It's been
back those clocks up before the time change.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm still thrown off from that time change. How bad
so bad. I'm a wreck.
Yeah. I'm like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning randomly. It's terrible. All right. All right. So before we go any further, before we dive in, we like to ask our guests a few questions. So John, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yes, sir. Dan, I don't know how much New Mutants you've read before, how into New Mutants you are. Do you have a favorite New Mutants artist? Some big names rolled through this world.
Oh man. Let's say, well, I mean, it would have to be Sienkiewicz. I mean, I suppose, like that's the one that I've always that's the one go-to. Right. As far as like the thing that stands out about the New Mutants. Let's see. Well, I mean, like I have the general favorite artists, and I'm not exactly sure who had gone through them. So like, but Sienkiewicz is the answer.
I grew up reading the Liefeld era, so for me, like Liefeld ranked high just for nostalgia reasons, but Sienkiewicz is Sienkiewicz. Like I don't know how you compare anything to that guy, so I think I respect your comment there in a big way. But
that's a good call though, because Liefeld was sorry for the cutoff. Liefeld was the one who the first one that I would see, when I associated with New Mutants. It's true.
For sure.
But my knowledge is low on the totem pole as far as New Mutants goes. So I was stoked that you guys, made me read this because
we twisted your arm.
it reminded me about how great like the interpersonal writing that Claremont brings to characters. So like I kind of went in like knowing a little bit about the characters, but man, he really made me care for them. Like in just one issue,
Sure.
So
right.
I want to keep reading this now.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think we've enjoyed the Bob McLeod art that led into this frame as well. Sure. I think that it's a more traditional Marvel, Bronze Age style, but
was that before like the annual came on? Okay.
Yeah. And McLeod obviously like set the stage, but then Sienkiewicz like knocked it all down. It's like, let's start all over. We're going from scratch.
Completely different.
Yeah. Okay, just so I can bother Ryan a little bit.
Please.
Can you name 2 mutants stronger than Colossus? Any mutants who have a physical strength that could defeat Colossus? Can you think of any? Can you name any?
In like a strength competition,
arm wrestling, whatever, like in some kind of like strength competition. Who's defeating Colossus?
Oh, you asking me?
Yeah, this is. Yeah.
Oh,
we're running you through the.
I want Ryan to be so upset when he watches.
Is there any other mutants that could out strength him?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
You're like, where do I begin? There's a laundry list.
I know it's a really long list. I want Ryan Colossus Collector rage commenting on this video when he finally gets to watch it.
Well, I definitely can't turn my back on Ryan if he's here right now. But because I mean, like,
good. He's not here. You're good.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you knew that Colossus was arm wrestling and you were gonna bet on somebody to beat him, who you putting your money on to beat him?
I mean, okay, well, like, Juggernaut's the first guy that comes to mind, right? As far as like that's the head-to-head nemesis. Gosh, and then when it comes to pure strength itself, I mean,
you're trying to be so nice. I love it,
dude. Well, why don't I turn this on you? You're saying arm wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, look, if we're focused, there's.
I love how hard this is.
I can't turn my back on him. I just can't do this. But and then you might say strong guys out there, strong guy, but but there's no way. Like can you guys throw me because I'm thinking tricky. I'm getting meta and thinking tricky with for example, we got like look at what happened in this issue with Sunspot,
right.
So
Roberto
what
can't be
ignored, but that's not pure strength. But
no,
when you're talking about solar strength, I mean,
it's true.
Are they able to do it out on a sunny day, sitting out there in near the equator?
If the conditions are just right. I mean, yeah. So, but what kinds of things were you were Justin? You were saying there's so many. What comes to mind?
I'm a big Rogue fan, and I feel like on a good day she could take him. I feel like Rogue on that's some serious strength. That Captain Marvel strength is not to be messed around with. I think she could. I think she's skinnier, but she's got that strength. I would put money on Rogue. Plus, he could get distracted. She's a good-looking woman. He could get fully distracted, and that could play out.
This answer right here. Candace, I think you are spot on. She said Kitty Pryde. He'd give up.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well said.
That's playing three-dimensional chess there, Candace.
That is three-dimensional chess.
Dude. Yeah. No, I mean, the thing is with Rogue is like with Colossus, anytime somebody has like a very linear type of power, just something that's very simple, like
right.
I mean, it's more like defense for I feel like for Colossus to
sure.
But when strength is like that's his thing, I usually give the edge to those characters.
It's all he's got, John. Give it to him.
However, I gotta bust out like the Jim Lee cards, and look at the stats on the back, because then I would have like known right away. Well, technically, as you can see,
he's at a level 8 and she's at a level 7.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What I'm learning here is that Dan is very loyal. That's what I'm learning.
He's incredible.
Oh, that's my mutant power. That's why we love never let my boy down.
Yeah,
no.
Colossus Collector. I tried.
No.
All right. Who would you pick as a team leader for the New Mutants? There's a lot of guys and gals who've led the team over the years up to now. Do you have like somebody that you're like Battlefield? Who you picking to run the squad?
I mean, well, I have to run the squad. See, like, okay, I just have to. Cannonball is my favorite. Sam's my favorite, but and like I just want to give him a chance. You know what I mean? But I
nowadays he's much more mature, right? He's not the same kid here that he is now, right? So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like my knowledge of New Mutants is so low that I just I tend to just like go with the streamline folks that we've seen. So
I know people that love the Cable, that they're gonna go Cable, or they're gonna go Xavier or something like that. But I'm with you. I tend to go Cannonball most times.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. I love Sam. Sam is one of my favorite. He gets compared to Cyclops and I think there's good and bad that goes along with that, but I take all the positive out of that. I think he's way better than Cyclops personally.
I like the depth to, or just like that, the humanistic qualities that you can relate to when it comes to him, and that's what's always been my favorite for him. He's just such a nice guy, and
right,
and he's trying his best, and
he means well. He's got a good
he
heart.
He means well, and not that like Colossus doesn't, but like, dude, his past is like so freaking crazy, dude. It's just like he's like so trauma, like he's got so much trauma that it's so much too much baggage for me to keep up with. So
I love it. All right, last one. If you're gonna have one Wolverine on your team, you going Logan or you going Laura? Like who's your Wolverine?
Yeah, I mean, it's always Logan.
I see him on your wall, so I'm gonna assume.
Yeah. And I used to kind of like poo-poo the Laura Kenny because I just I only have been reading like the Copper stuff and didn't really read when she had came out. But the more that I am learning about her, and I'm enjoying her more and more. So. But it's always going to be my guy, Logan. I'm just
you're a traditionalist.
Yeah. 100%.
And I
live in that little bubble that that they allow me to. Yeah.
Wolverine's a tiny guy. He only needs a small bubble. That's fine.
Right.
I recommend, if you haven't read it, Tom Taylor did a phenomenal run called All New Wolverine. Yes. And if you at all like Tom Taylor, obviously his Nightwing was so phenomenal. I love that as well. But he did a Wolverine run with Laura Kinney taking over as the character called All New Wolverine. It's like 30 issues. It's terribly small. Like it's one tiny skinny omnibus.
Yeah, and I love that.
And you'll dig what you get out of Laura in that. It's a really good read.
Yeah. And that's the one I remember, like some of these like individual issues, like that includes like the one where she's doing the X with like just her face on the cover. That's kind of like the famous book.
And they have one of the hip hop variants with her like covered in blood doing I think it's the DMX thing.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
Candace.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give that a shot.
Candace would love.
Yeah. It's a cheap omnibus. They tend to reprint it every so often. So if you're an Omni kind of collector, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I'm not
appreciate.
Yeah.
Danny, definitely. I'll check that out due to your recommendation. So thanks, John.
Sure. Yeah, man. Again, just a reminder, if you guys are not following Dan, make sure you do so. I put his information in the description below. Let's get into the issue, gentlemen. We have New Mutants 22 tonight, and going to bring up my little chart here, my little slideshow. So as usual, would like to talk, just kick it off with the cover, get your guys' thoughts on, your initial thoughts on the cover and whether you like it or not. So John, I'll start with you first. Would you initially think of this cover?
It's one of those that I feel like could use a little more lighting. Like I feel like there's so much of it that I can't see very well. I've got to like lean in and kind of like, what's going on in the upper right-hand corner there? I can't quite see what's happening. I love the corner box art. The corner box art is phenomenal. It's like giving all the Disney vibes. I really love what's going on there. And I like the concept of what's going on. I just feel like it's hard to see. Like it doesn't pop very much because it's such a dark palette, and it's such the art is so, Sienkiewicz does so little to like make individual pieces stand out. But the concept is really great. It's just a little bit of the execution's off. I don't hate it, but it's also one of those that blends in a lot with other covers because it doesn't have that sort of energy that comes right off the page.
Yeah, no,
but when you study it, there's a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of good Disney-esque kind of vibes happening that I dig.
Yep. Candace here says, I love the Sleeping Beauty homage for sure. Kenneth in the chat, what is going on? Kenneth Bird, hello. Magic Lasso said the corner box art has been fun for a while now. That's a good point. Yeah, I actually did not notice the corner box art until you just pointed it out, John. Shame on me to not look up there. But yeah, you're right. That is really, really cool.
And they do little fun things with them, like for a stretch here when Bill's on the title, where they just kind of have a little fun with it.
That's right. Right. I was just about to say that I think like each one is like has a little difference, and it's related to the issue, right?
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Very cool. Dan, what about you? Yeah, what do you think of this cover?
Yeah, so like the same thing John said, that when I first saw it, and I've you always kind of run across it it's just like it was always like a nothing cover to me. Because I never looked at it. You know, I only would see the bright spots right there. And you know, the way, like you had mentioned, the homage to Snow White is there, and I noticed like her outfit reminds me of like Aurora from another Disney movie, Sleeping Beauty.
Yep.
And it's just like when you look at this, it all kind of flows together. I feel like it's a really good job of kind of like having this circular you know, thought bubble here, and to imagine like, you know, this evil empire, you know, kind of shadowy figure in the back, which I also never really noticed. And then also how you know, we have like the transformation into the wolf here with the like sparkles. There's just so much like,
you know,
just
that,
really
and hold that up again, because Dan, you know, I think the copy printed in my omnibus is so much darker than yours. I actually I can see a lot more detail in the demon with the gray background behind him that I can't see.
Yeah, the moon and everything. Yeah.
So that is a far better representation. I actually now I have a lot more. Like, look how dark it is in the thumbnail that we've got going.
Yeah,
like, it's hard to see the gray.
Yeah, and that thumbnail screenshot is of from
from the digital version, which they make for these Omnis. So that looks way better. That cover looks phenomenal in person. In a way that I don't think it comes across in this version. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then I had never had noticed, you know, Rain down there, like just kind of daydreaming, you know, in her face. I just kind of, you just kind of, you know, there's little blobs and pieces put together, but yeah, it all really comes together when you get a closer look and get to look at it. And yeah, I just think that I really like that flow of the storytelling just within the image itself. So yeah, I dig it.
I'm with you guys. I mean, I definitely have a more of an appreciation for this book now that I've read it, and knowing kind of more what this goes into. And I do think that, you know, part of me seeing this was like, oh, is this, you know, similar to the X-Men 153, which I know backstage we were talking about. Dan, you have that copy that you can hold up real quick. So for those who
we're making Dan do so much work. Hold this up. Now hold that up now.
You're like not prepared at all, right? Dan's got it.
Lower, higher.
So so that book right there, for those of you who, you know, if I've read this before or read it while we were reading it from the X-Men a couple seasons ago, this is what I kind of thought of. And I remember, I believe it was Fable that was with us when we had broken this one down, but I remember being, you know, a little like, you know, negative towards it in comparison to a lot of the other books that we had just read. But I think as we came out the other side, like I was much more positive about it, and enjoyed it a bit more and took it for just what it was. But yeah, so Kitty's fairy tale, like this, you know, so all this that we're looking at here compared to this New Mutants 22, you know, again, just the fairy tale. New Mutants 22 says, you know, Once Upon a Time on the front cover. You know, you get all these like kind of fake characters, but they're all based on the real characters. You know, you have the little Banff guys in that, you know, in the fairy tale issue and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so that you know, ultimately I chalk that up to being a very fun issue. So, well, all that being said, like I'm like, okay, like I have this like positive mindset going into this book. So, but yeah, so this cover, Dan, you pointed out some really good stuff. Just looking closer at it, and I'm gonna have to find my original issue too for this 22, because I want to see more detail. Because John, you call it the omnibus is very dark.
I mean, that was a wonderful. Every once in a while, we have those moments where you see what it looked like in the original form versus the digital print that they create for the the online version or for the omnibus. And I think it's nice to make that comparison because, again, color work can change. Some of the omnibus shows that I've been doing for like Doctor Doom, like the background colors change. Like they'll do a lot of stuff digitally that the original copy of the comic might not do. And so I think it's kind of cool to make that comparison. So that was a great share.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, let's jump into the issue. We have just to start it off, we get our guy Nightcrawler. I was so pumped to see that the issue's kicked off with one of our favorite, OG characters from, kicking off Omni X-Men. And so we get Nightcrawler, and really he's in his own element, right? We see him swinging, back and forth. We get the vibe he's in the danger room essentially, but he has this like circus type of setup, and he's training Sam Guthrie. So we see him kind of going through the motions and trying to explain to Sam a little bit more details on, how to use his abilities in a way. We've been learning this, right? We've been learning and seeing Sam struggle and question how to, maneuver, how to turn. He has this power. He's able to, shoot directly, but he has such a hard time actually, making a curve or a turn. Last issue, we learned a little bit more, or he learned a little bit more thanks to Spider-Man, but, he still is, frustrated with himself and still learning. So this was a cool little, opening scene here where he's just kind of taking him really literal step by step, trying to use this rope and everything as he swings through here. And then we get a little glimpse of him bamfing, which I think this might be the first time that we see the bamf effect by Bill Sienkiewicz, which I think is a really special moment as well.
Yeah.
So, and then of course the way the panel layouts is on that far page is technically 2 pages, so it's like a spread layout, even though it's with multiple broken up panels there. So just to get your guys' thoughts, John, I will start with you. What did you think kicking off this issue?
I mean, I love this elf, man. I've always been a big Nightcrawler fan. Storm's number one, always number one, but Nightcrawler is a definite number 2. He's just a great character. He's got all the heart, he's got all the compassion, he's got all the kindness. I'm getting major Empire Strikes Back vibes from this. Like there's lots of Yoda talk going on here that I just kind of wanted to highlight, where he's like, strange attitude for someone who can fly. Right? Let your body flow naturally from one movement to the next. Like there's some serious Yoda vibes I'm getting from this that I love. I love that he's like getting to be the leader a little bit, getting to be the teacher a little bit. I mean, when I was picking up comics as a kid, he was Excalibur. He was leading the Excalibur team, and I always kind of gave him that status as leader that I don't think he gets routinely considered, and this highlights it for me. So I love seeing him in this sort of confident position.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Conlon says appreciating all the Nightcrawler love. Yeah, for sure. Dan, what about you? What are your thoughts when we first open up this book and we get a surprise of Nightcrawler teaching Sam some things?
Yeah, the very first thing that I noticed when I opened up the comic in the single issue is the Atari Mario Brothers game in the back. So that was a nice little trip.
It's Frogger on the back, right?
Yeah.
And then also there's so that's like a 3-page spread, right? This very first page is usually like you get a splash page on the first page, but this one it introduces Nightcrawler with just showing little bits of his body, right? Like his feet, I can hold that up.
The hand.
And he's having a conversation with Sam, and he's like, "Are you afraid of heights?" And he's like, "Oh, a little bit." And and the way that they write, the way that Sam talks, instead of "I am" or whatever, it's AH, to extenuate his accent, right? And so I just love the way that they always introduce, or Claremont rather, right, introduces characters by showing what their power or what their strengths are, what their powers are, and then also showing the characters interact with each other, so that we kind of get an idea of an introduction of the characters, but also the way that they interact with each other. So you kind of just learn a lot about these characters within a short amount of time. And then something that I really enjoyed here on this panel was the perspective of Sam here up high in the background, kind of this down low shot above, and he just almost looks like just intimidated, and it's
just a watcher.
And then you just see Nightcrawler just doing his thing, and then that text line with the lettering
so good
is, it's so just sketchy, like it's just so rough and
so different.
You can taste the brimstone
Yeah, that's great. Great description. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, I'm with you guys, and I think as we highlight that more, the whole Banff thing, that this makes it just even that much more special, this issue. So yeah, very cool. Let's jump into this next bit here. So we do have Sam again. He's clearly struggling with a lot of things right now, right? So he's trying to explain. Basically, Nightcrawler, as we just saw, he took him through all these things, explaining verbally how to do it, and then he's like, "You don't look convinced." And Sam's like, "Yeah, I know what to do in my head. I just don't know how to have my body do it." And he's really struggling with that. And as he's climbing up the ladder and going through all these things, Nightcrawler being a great coach, by the way, really giving some strong advice and encouragement. But Sam, in this bottom set of panels here, when he has his hand on his shoulder, Sam is really like beating himself up, and he's just like thinking of all the negative things. Like he's kind of very negative in this regard, talking about Professor X says that I'm the leader, I'm the older one, I should know all this stuff, but I'm losing my, what he says, he goes, everybody else is getting better with their powers except me. So he feels like he's like, kind of falling behind. And then he gets a visit from Rain, who, I mean, that certainly threw him off. And he's like, great. Now, the last thing I need is an audience. She comes up and wishes him good luck, kisses him on the cheek, and all that stuff. And then, he gets ready to kind of, take off, and I had to throw the flame on gif in here because it just reminded me of him taking off in that way. So I like that, the artwork, we get a little bit of detail with Bill Sienkiewicz and how he's showing Sam take off, the descriptions of all that. Again, if you're newer or just reading New Mutants for the first time, it kind of gives you that background. And then of course on that far side is him, he's whirling in this cannonball type shape. He tries to do the move. It doesn't work. He's about to hit the wall instead. And then last minute, Nightcrawler comes up, kind of bamfs him and catches him, and then drops him into the net that they had down below to kind of protect him. And again, he's just at this point embarrassed. He's calling himself stupid and dumb. He goes, if he wouldn't have caught me, I would have hit that wall and probably would have broke things and cost Professor X millions of dollars. He goes, I don't know how I didn't break my neck. I must be losing my touch. And that's how that kind of little scenario ends for the moment. But Dan, I'm going to kick it to you first. What are your thoughts on, seeing two things really? One, Nightcrawler being the coach that he's being, and not just doing the thing, but actually trying to give words of encouragement. And then on top of that, Sam, even though we talked that he's this leader, he's this positive guy, but he's really coming off as a little bit of a negative Nancy with his, within his own mind. What do you think of this?
Yeah, this is probably my favorite part in the whole issue. I love this panel here with Sam Cannonball doubting himself. Yeah. The idea of being the oldest and not showing any improvement. Like, how many of us have felt like that? Like, whether it's you're the oldest or you're not, you're getting older and like you're not showing improvement, or whenever you are in your life and you've hit a wall, you feel like you've hit a wall. And that's just like, in the facial expressions within there is just it just felt just so real, and I really, that's when I really started to connect with this issue. And then to see Nightcrawler, he's like the preacher for everyone, right? He's the guy who can speak words of encouragement, and he always knows, just what to say in these short little lines. And so he doesn't have any doubt in Sam. He is just saying, just go for it. You'll figure it out. You'll just do it and don't worry about it. And so I see. And then to see this next panel, you can see it right there in the middle with Sam taking off there. That's kind of like just embodies him. I feel like there's this kind of awkward, lanky kind of run to him that just like it just encapsulates him and his powers. So I just love that little scene, and then to have him drop. And continue to just like feel down on himself. You just want to know what happens next with him, and you can't help but root for this guy.
For sure. No,
and who better to be with him than Nightcrawler in this moment?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's definitely the perfect guy to kind of help go through this process. John, before I kick it to you, I'm going to highlight a couple things here in the chat. Matt says, "Poor Sam sure has trouble holding on to his shirt, holding on to his shirt, doesn't he? Right? Yeah."
Yeah.
And then Bobby, Station Bobby, good to see you. He says, "If I if I have those abs, I'd never be wearing a shirt."
Fair.
I hear you. I hear you.
Fair. Bobby was on Gary B's show tonight doing 1011.
Nice.
It was really entertaining. So if you
Awesome.
need more Bobby
Oh,
in your
awesome.
life, and who doesn't,
Yes.
you can go over there and catch that later.
Very nice.
Killer.
John, what about you? What are your thoughts here on seeing the relationship kind of between these two and what Nightcrawler's trying to help Sam do?
I totally agree. Dan's spot on, and I feel like this is my favorite part of the issue as well. And the facial expressions are so strong. The cloud kind of floating behind Sam there in that panel above the one when the hand is on his shoulder.
Mhm.
You just feel like the weight of the world is on this guy. And then the cute little like sending of luck as a little heart landing on his face. I love that little moment between Rain and him, and the way that it's sort of animated.
Yep.
This little line shooting from her mouth up to his face, and the expression on his face is so endearing. It's so
Very
sweet.
different. Yeah.
And then the tiny Bamf. So we get another Bamf here, and it's when Nightcrawler is coming to his rescue, and Nightcrawler has another Bamf, but it's written so tiny. It's like it's almost like a Bamfette. It's like it's this small little like moment where he is on the spot, ready to rescue him and save him, and of course Sam's going to get on his own case. He's incredibly lacking in faith in himself, right? And he does not have that belief in himself as being worthy, right? And Nightcrawler has all the faith, right? He has all the belief in him, because not only has he been somebody who has a lot of faith in general, but he also has been there. He's been that guy failing to control his powers in the same kind of ways, where they wanted him to teleport a long distance and he couldn't do it. They wanted him to teleport carrying other people, and it was taking everything out of him. And now here he is, bamfing across the room, acting all like cocky, like I got this, I'm going to catch Sam, bamf him away. It doesn't really take anything out of me. Like, it's no big deal. I think he has that level of compassion and understanding for what Sam's doing. So I love this whole sequence. This really crushes it. And everybody's really in who they are. They're really honestly who they are. Rain is cheering him on. Nightcrawler is giving him advice and guidance, but without being strict or harsh, or without being, coddling. He's just there for him. He's just supporting him. And then Sam is just all in his head, all locked in his head.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you pointed out that the little Bamf. I really, looking back at that again, I just think of that as like almost like someone kind of training their child or something, where you're just putting a light hand behind them, or a light, help pushing, for whatever they're doing. So it's a really cool, like, I mean, clearly there was thought put in there, from Bill. So I think that's
for
really
sure
cool touch that they added. One thing on my end, pat myself on the back here, the gift there of
Sam,
the man who plays Samuel Tarly. I was like, that's a perfect. I
got your Game of Thrones. Yeah, I got your reference. You can't pull one on me.
Samuel Tarly.
Those are great.
Right, let's keep this going.
I also must say, also kudos on of course the gifts that you have there, but also the that tiny Bamf, the choice of having that panel so thin, also, and it expresses to me the quickness of being able to do it. Just how, like you said, John, in a moment's time, that's really cool. I love how the timing is played out through the art and the panels as well.
Totally.
Well said. All right, let's get into this next bit here. I have a lot of things with this one here. A lot of words.
And I wanted to say too, like, he doesn't just bamf him to safety. He bamfs him and then throws him. Like, and he says to him, "Down you go. Remember how to fall." Like he's not
doesn't give him a hard time.
Again, coddling him to safety. He's like giving him a different kind of danger that he's trained him for, and then watching to see how he does it, knowing there's a net to catch him. Right? He's not just like, "Oh, I saved you." It's like, nope, I
Yes.
put you in, you're still in danger. Save yourself. Let's see how you do.
Yep. And perfect kind of like, I mean, this next panel, this very top one next to me here, continues that as far as the back and forth, the coaching that he provides. After he lands and he kind of tries to get up, or and he's Nightcrawler's checking on him. He says, "You sore?" He goes, "No, nothing's broken." He goes, "I didn't mean physically."
Physically,
He's like, "Man, I blew it." He goes, and he's just complaining about it. And he's like, "Well, what did you expect to be, perfection right off the bat?" He goes, "Yeah, kind of." And Nightcrawler says, nothing worth doing comes that easy, hotshot. And that's a great, I mean, obviously that's just in life. Like that's just, you need to be able to, it takes, requires you to work on things in order to have, really great.
Ted Lasso words of wisdom here.
Yeah. Nightcrawler dropped it. He must've watched Ted Lasso right before this episode.
Yeah.
And then, so then he goes, "Hey, get back up. We'll start again." And then you get this little grin from Nightcrawler, and he's up to something, right? So I have to say, I'm reading it. First time I read this, I read it digitally. So I'm reading it digitally, and I'm, swiping, and I just do panel to panel, and I immediately I see things change. It goes dark. Sam's back at the top. These middle panels, and then I see this clown, and I'm like, wait, did I skip a page? What what just happened here? I think I'm missing things. But of course we find out that it's Nightcrawler who's messing around with the danger room effects and the abilities to change the outfits and what you appear as. So as he does this, all you see are essentially two clowns. You don't quite know who's who, but you do kind of get that one of them is Rain. So there's a clown in green who's like, bowing and saying, "Oh, may I have this waltz, this dance?" And she goes, "Oh, sure." And they kind of do this dance, and the female clown is like giddy and happy, and she's got red hair, kind of representing Rain. And then she's like, "Oh, he goes, this was a real." Oh, then the clown says, "This was a real pleasure, Rain, but I must go. Sam is waiting." And sure enough, Nightcrawler reveals himself, and she freaks out. She just freaks out. Now, this is something I wanted to highlight, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on, because it's like, we've seen this in previous, issues, and I've questioned it in previous issues of like, she complains about being judged, and it hurts her feelings when other people judge her. And then she immediately just turns and does it to Nightcrawler. And this is not the first time she's done this to Nightcrawler. This was what, John, the episode or issue 5 or 6, the one, introducing Amara. Same thing. That was her first introduction to Nightcrawler. And she was like terrified. She thought he was like a demon, a monster. She still thinks he's a demon. And so she's like baffled, and she runs away in this particular scene. So she runs away. She even says, "You're a liar." He tries to Nightcrawler tries to have this really nice moment and just saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover," because you never know. It's really what's inside that matters. And she doesn't even want to hear that. She's just like, "Liar! Everything I know, everything that I've grown up with, it's you're a demon. You look like a demon. Yada yada yada." So she runs off. Sam yells, "Don't go," but she goes anyways. I'll pause at this moment to pass it to you guys, because I want to get your thoughts on, again, I know she's a kid. She's the youngest of the group. So I try to keep that in perspective. I know she's going through a lot. This whole world is kind of flipped upside down for her. So, John, what do you take about
I love how you hate Rain.
I feel like
there's own.
You're so political about the way you're talking about it. You're like, "No, let me not do it." But this chick sucks. Like, but let me just.
So judgy, Rain.
Here's what I do like about this scene.
Yeah, even though she's
is I like Nightcrawler shines here for me, because he knows he needs to push her buttons. He knows he needs to crack through this exterior. He knows he needs to do a little, psychological warfare with her. And so he intentionally pushes her buttons. And I could see somebody saying this scene doesn't work because she should recognize his thick German accent and know exactly who it is. And it's clearly not Sam's Southern accent. I choose to believe he's doing a phenomenal impression of Sam's accent for her, and that it's just not something we can read on the page. I'm choosing to believe that he is enough of a shenanigans player that he would be able to mimic a little bit of Sam's voice enough to fool her.
No, he's doing the vocal hologram in the danger room. That's
fair. Also fair. But I also like that he's not offended by her calling him demon twice. The Nightcrawler we saw early in Uncanny is someone who was very sensitive about people demonizing him, literally demonizing him. And I think this shows his maturity that he's able to have this conversation with her and completely retain his cool, knowing that she's going to likely react this way. He is intentionally provoking it from her to force her to confront her own misconceptions and her own judgmental behaviors. And I love all of this. The fact that she fails, he knows that she's likely going to fail, but that's part of her learning curve. He wants her to fail, right? He wants her to confront it and deal with it. He agrees. Maybe I went a little too far, but at the same time, I'm with him 1,000% that it needed to happen and that she needed to deal with it. Is she wrong? Obviously, she's a mutant surrounded by a culture that judges her for being a mutant, and she can't see past her own reflection to notice that like this guy's dealt with it way worse in his life. So that's disappointing, and she instantly turns into a monster that like other people would judge, but then runs off, and it's like, okay, like, you know, take a look in the mirror, hypocrite. But for me, it's all about Nightcrawler and the effective button pushing that needs to happen and that he's doing.
Yeah, he's definitely come a long way with just even knowing how to go about that, and
right,
you know, his own maturity has grown. So, Dan, what about you? What do you think of these shenanigans here?
Yeah, I mean, John, you say it so eloquently. Like every one of those points, you know, I was thinking those things exactly, but you just articulate them really well. You know, I thought the same thing about he's pushing the boundaries here. Like, you know, that he's kind of being a dick about this. But you're right. He's been through this before. You know, Kitty Pryde felt the same way about him, right? I'm not sure, like, if I knew that, like, I felt like Kitty always knew that she shouldn't feel this way about him, and I think Rain mentions that earlier too. But she also kind of has a little more of a tone of just ew, you know,
a little more immaturity, than Kitty. Yeah,
and you're right. Like, you know, it's Wolfsbane, right? And that's a flower, right? That's like toxic to people, I believe, right? And so I'm sure that there was like that poetic idea that it's beautiful, but it's also deadly.
Toxic.
And that describes her powers. The thing is with Nightcrawler, he can't turn that off, right? The way that it looks. He looks evil, and he can't change that like she can, you know? So that cut a little bit, and you know, was harsh, but you're right. I don't think he was offended because he's dealt with this his whole life, and it shows a lot of growth and maturity from him. And then he lets her deal with it. She runs away, and he says, I think he stops Sam there and says, you know, this is something she needs to figure out on her own.
Right.
The whole clown situation, what the heck, dude? Like,
bring on the clowns.
It was weird. But you know what, Claremont does stuff like that, right? Where it's just like, what, you know, he's making people into babies and stuff all the time. You know, I get it. Like, it was an illusion, and it was an illusion of you know, Nightcrawler in the circus, right? So there was a theme to it.
Yeah,
but a little weird.
Yeah, I'm glad that it was Bill Sienkiewicz on the art for these, you know, for this particular type of moment. You know, just to knowing how wicked his mind is to get to see some clown action, you know, in his artwork there.
Clown action.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, how wicked his mind is.
Next time I meet Claremont, that'll be one of my questions, of my many questions. I'm gonna ask him whose idea it was to do the clown. Was it Chris's direction, or did Bill have a twisted, you know, sense of, you know, let's do this. All right, let me go through the second half here of these pages. So yeah, then we turn our attention to another training that's going on. And it's Colossus. We get our boy Colossus, who we were just talking about earlier in the show. And he's training Sunspot. So they're going at it. And there's a little bit of competition going on between these two, a little bit of trash talking that we get a sense of. And, you know, Colossus is trying to be very proper. I mean, we know him. He's not one to really trash talk or anything like that. And he's genuinely trying to teach Sunspot. But Sunspot's like, listen, old man, like, I know these things. You don't gotta tell me, you know, I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses, yada, yada, yada. Let's just get on with it. And you know, he cracks him at one point, and Colossus showing Sunspot a little bit of his weakness, or showing where his weakness lie, and he falls. Of course, you know, Bobby doesn't like that, and he says nobody strikes DaCosta Russian, and gets away with it, and swipes under him, and he falls, and they really have at it. He goes, let's see, once and for all, who's the stronger being. And out of nowhere, Colossus has this like almost like this screeching pain that goes on within him as you see those far panels. And we don't really know what's going on other than Bobby's hands are like deformed. They look like a wolf's set of hands, and it always says is Madonna, my hands. He has no idea. He goes, he's checking on Colossus. You all right? He didn't mean to hurt him like that. So just a little sprinkle of things. I know we've seen some dramatic effects and drug usage, accidentals drug usage by the team, by Roberto and Rain, but I think this certainly is one of those hints of those seeds that were planted from, what was that, John? And was that the annual or the team up? That was Marvel team up.
The cloak and dagger stuff.
Yeah.
So that's part of this ongoing story. In fact, if you've seen the cover for the next issue, Cloak and Dagger are on the cover for the next issue.
Yep. So anything you want to add here, Dan? I'll pass it to you first, just as far as this little bit here that we see between Colossus and Sunspot.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of get to know a little bit about like he's a bit of a hothead. You can tell, and then same thing with the way that Nightcrawler had pushed the boundaries a little bit here. Colossus was also a little bit, maybe a little bit out of line, throwing the smack down while he was distracted, but he's trying to push him, right? He's trying to train him. So yeah, I get that. And let's see. Just like you kind of get to know the personality behind him. Now the hand part, because I didn't really, I didn't really get that right because I didn't understand the reference. Okay, but you recognize that this is just classic point reference from Claremont, where he'll bring up something, whether that's something new, which I think is coming in the next scene or in the next few pages, or something that was mentioned earlier, and this is just kind of a play on for you to remember as the reader this moment, because something's cooking,
Yeah. So, and I just as a quick background for you and for anybody else that hasn't read the Marvel team up that we had read a few a month ago, 2 months ago. Essentially, the two of them get captured at one point, Rain and Sunspot, by this like gang, and they get like injected with this venom of some sort that they're being tested on. These people that want to basically use mutants in a negative way and use their powers or abuse them, and so because of this, from that episode, they were never really checked out from there. Like they're like Professor X is kind of going through some processes, with Moira and doctors and all that stuff, but like the testing really hasn't been there, in which clearly there should be, because something is up. Like there's something else that's affecting their powers that's not right. So that's really it. That's just kind of the generalized background, but that's what is hinting towards. So just, and again, just those two particular characters. John, anything here to add before we jump into the next
we can go on to the next page because it kind of continues there if you want to.
Okay, yeah. So from there, so the very end, I actually meant to put this on with that Bobby panel. He just looks at his hands again. He goes, they're normal again. Must have been imagining things, and he kind of just lets that go. He goes, don't be upset, Roberto. You're not to blame. They kind of have this, forgiveness and move on. But meanwhile, Rain continues to run off or run by. She's kind of passing everybody as they go, and she's checking in on Professor X and Moira. And meanwhile, they're
that's Xavier. I thought it was Kingpin.
I thought that. I mean,
there's a serious neck flab going on here in this.
Sienkiewicz does great work, but every once in a while. One like, flips, holy crap, that's a fat Xavier.
So they are experimenting on or trying to learn more about Warlock. So we get to see a little bit of them shedding some light on Warlock again, and just learning more about Moira. Is like fascinated at the fact that Warlock can basically take any shape. His eyeball like pops out when she's like talking about him, and they put this little drink of water and how he can kind of absorb it and turn it into a part of him. So we learned a little bit about that, and then meanwhile, it's Rain who's peeking in and trying to check in, and Professor X says, "Hey, Rain, I know you're there. Listen, we're really busy right now. Is this important? or can it wait?
Yeah.
And she runs off. And he, again, Professor X being cold, as he kind of has been for the while that we've been reading him.
You gave him so much credit, though. Right? Hey, if this is that was not the way that I.
No,
read.
You're right. It
was
was
not
way
the
more
tone.
cold. Yes, no, you're right. It is definitely way more cold than that for sure.
Yeah, I sense your presence, Rain. Is there anything you want? If it's urgent, I'd prefer you see me later. We're very busy.
Yeah. And for me, I got like the tired dad voice, like a lot of deep sighs.
Very annoyed.
Yep.
Very annoyed.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, Rain says, Rain thinks, okay, let me go to Danny. She's probably, gonna hear me out or whatever. She's, clearly Rain needs someone to talk to. And then, sure enough, Danny is on the phone right now. She's on the phone with her parents, who we had learned from the Demon Bear stories that her parents are back. They're released. They're free from the Demon Bear. That whole saga, if you guys have not read it, definitely go check it out. It is well worth your time to read. So she's back with her parents essentially, and this is all great news to her. She's able to actually have conversations with them again because she thought they were dead. So this is a whole different world, and I think for her as a character, I'm interested to see where this goes from here for Danny and just her character. It is funny because a little bit of a phone call conversation she has. Her mom corrects her English at one point, which I was laughing at. Just they like that they took the time to kind of throw that in there. Still very much a mother to a daughter, kind of connection. So that was nice. And then she turns around, she goes, Rain, everything okay? And she just runs off. She's like, oh. She goes, I don't like this. Now Danny does get the vibe that something's going on, that something doesn't feel right. And that's her leadership. That's, one of the best things that, one of the reasons I like Danny the most is her leadership and just her awareness of things in general. So I like that we get a little piece of that. So with that said, John, I'm going to pass it to you. Any thoughts here between the Warlock, exploration and, seeing Danny with her, talking to her parents?
Sure. I mean, this is where the issue starts to skip around a little bit much to me. Things start happening really quickly and it gets a little choppy. That Claremont methodology that Dan mentioned earlier that we all know and love can at sometimes become much. and this issue is drawing on so many different storylines, trying to weave them together into what ultimately is like a 5-issue plot that covers a couple of X-Men issues and then the New Mutants ones we're reading. In fact, in the omnibus, the next book is an Uncanny issue, and then it goes back to New Mutants. So it feels slightly choppy, and this is just the beginning of the waters getting a little out of whack. I do love the artwork. We're getting some good faces outside of Xavier. I do like the Danny sketches. Of course she goes to Danny, and Xavier, the two wheelchair bound characters, because they're easier to find, right? That's
Sure.
That's what I'm taking as another layer of her judgment.
Oh boy.
But in the end, I think I like that Rain is trying to get help.
Yeah.
And up until now, she was often the one that just would run off, and then they'd have to go in the woods and find her. Like, it's nice that she's at least seeking people out. It's a shame that she's seeking people out who are unable to assist her in the moment, but it shows a little bit of progress at least.
Yeah, well said. Dan, what about you? Any thoughts you want to add here to the Warlock stuff or anything with Danny?
I mean, like, it was fun to see Moira, and then with Danny, I think you just get a lot about her attitude and just her awareness of what's going on with the other students and you're right. It was just fun to hear like her talking to her folks. But I mean, the thing that I noticed, or I guess that I put together with this was just that Rain is feeling like there's nobody to turn to right now. It's like as a kid, and I mean, like, you're right. All things aside, in her mind, she's the center of her world. And right now this is like a big deal to her. And she needs somebody to turn to. And I think we've can relate in a way that, when everybody's too busy for you, especially as a kid. And so that's where I kind of imagine her feeling right now, just rejected. Nobody can talk to her.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Well, let's keep going here. We got again, we kind of shift gears. John, you're right. You know, these are a lot of little pieces that are kind of pulling together from different, you know, seeds that Claremont has dropped along the way. But yeah, we get someone in a silhouette there in the corner with a hat is asking for a Frederick von Rome at the door of this I actually don't know where they are at some store essentially.
Yeah, they don't tell you.
Yeah, they don't really say. Yeah,
so much. We don't have time for that.
And then so this guy's like, "Oh, welcome, come on in," and she basically puts
one of the most fashionable shops on one of the most fashionable streets in the world.
Yes, yeah,
that's all we get.
And then so she says, dismiss all your workers. Basically, I have, want to talk to you one-on-one. He's like, I don't know who you are. What do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? Basically, it turns out that Celine is back. She reveals, and he immediately is like, oh my gosh, like, he's starstruck. He's willing to do whatever for her. And he's, super excited to basically just worship her, the ground that she walks on. So she is back, and she basically requests a place to live and train, essentially a residency. She's asking for a good place that she can be, where she can exercise her powers and also, be safe at the same time. He goes, oh, well, I got the perfect place. It's called the Hellfire Club. Let me take you to Shaw. Yeah. So
how often does that ever come up? I got the perfect place, the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, very convenient place.
The Hellfire Club.
It's got a 5-star rating on
always said we should be trying new things.
Yes, Yelp, yeah, exactly. And then meanwhile, again, even more pieces that are kind of added in here that we kind of forgot a little bit of. Emmanuel DaCosta, you see here, Roberto's dad, is all dressed up, and he's not really digging the new look. But
like somebody is finally complaining about the Hellfire attire. This is the first time I think we've ever had a complaint about the Hellfire attire.
You're absolutely right. He's like, what am I wearing here? He goes, I feel foolish dressed like this. He goes, oh, don't, my friend. He goes, and he basically says, he's like, look, we're getting away from the modern, ideologies of what, what does he say? The modern age, essentially. He goes, with everything that they believe in. And we're all about one, the individual, focusing on what we do. And, gives this whole spiel about it. But he goes,
as long as you're a white man, let's be honest. As long as you're a white man. The women are in lingerie and are objects. And then now we finally have our first non-white person joining in the group here.
I mean, yeah, you're right. He even had a robot before he had a person of color. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, he says to him, hey, Manuel, this is a last chance to back out now. If you're having second thoughts, buddy, maybe you should leave. Otherwise, we're going to start your initiation. And that's all he kind of references is initiation. Meanwhile, at the last page over there on the end of this slide, you see Amara and Sunspot kind of, flirting, hanging out in the pool, Sunspot doing his thing, talking with her. And then you have Rain there in the corner with a pen and paper, and she's starting to put some thoughts down, which we'll get into after this final slide coming up here. But before we do, Dan, a little bit, pass it over to you. Any thoughts here with seeing Celine that's back, and then of course the tie-in with the Hellfire Club mentioning.
Yeah, well, I mean, the second you see that guy with the handlebar mutton chops, the Hellfire Club is around the corner.
Oh yeah,
and so I think that that this switch in scenery, this is a little jarring. For me, when it comes to the reading aspect of these stories, because now I'm invested in all these characters. Now let's jump over to this totally different area, and I mean, I do really like that introduction of Celine to be that she's you little man, I'll give you this because you're just being arrogant or whatever, or that he's ignorance, right? Yeah. And so that was great to see him, turn, Celine, turn on a dime there and grovel at her feet. And that
was great. We're definitely clipping that later.
Yeah. yeah. And then about the not really digging the costumes of the Hellfire Club. I think I remember being really confused during that first time we see them in the Phoenix Saga and X-Men. And I don't even know if they ever, I think they may have explained it a little bit, about just, about the unity of the Hellfire Club and everything. And the simpler time of, this Anyway, like it's out there, but I remember them like kind of diving into that a little bit with there was like a classic X-Men where it was a story like at the end, of the story, there's like that little extra story that you don't normally see, and it was like one of the maids or something that worked, and was kind of feeling sort of objectified by the outfit, and I don't remember. I think it was it was either Jean or the White Queen at the time. Who was
Emma.
Do you remember? Do you remember that?
Emma.
I want to say that it was part of the Wingard because he was like creating this like mind trip for Jean, and she was unsure what was real and what was not, and it might have been her reaction to it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. But regardless, it's just right. It's out there, and but I appreciate that Sebastian Shaw came out and said a little line about why it's chill and don't worry about it, and then I also liked like the art of Sebastian Shaw because he's like I always remembered like the John Byrne just like chiseled chin, just like cut hairy strong man, and this is like he's a little more of a slob, if you ask me, of the way that he looks. I mean, he's dressed nice, but like he's got that 50s buff look, and it's not it's not doing it for me, but I appreciate it's not all about it's not all about the muscle here, and that's fine. And then also that Emmanuel DaCosta, like he doesn't hesitate, right, when it's time to decide if he's ready to cross the barrier or not. I was actually like kind of surprised, like that he's just like he's a full go. So,
oh yeah. John, anything else that you want to add there? Seeing Roberto make his move on Amara or anything like that?
I mean, Dan hit a lot of home runs there. There's a lot of great stuff that he brought up as far as these characters, and yeah, of course, what is the guy with the giant crazy beard mutton chops going to recommend but the Hellfire Club? It doesn't matter. She could have Celine could have said like, I need a pizza, and he'd be like, oh, Hellfire Club's
yeah
whatever it is, he's like, I work and I go to the Hellfire Club. That's my entire existence. I don't have anything else in my life.
All that matters.
Look at how I wear my clothes and my facial hair. That's all I got. I got. But yeah, this is one of those sequences where now I feel like Claremont's it's all Easter eggs. It's all set up. It's all like, you got, don't forget Celine's out there. Don't forget the Hellfire Club's out there. Don't forget DaCosta Sr.'s getting his swerve on with the maids. Don't forget who's training who and what's coming up there. And then now we're going to jump into the fairy tale. Don't forget someone's writing a fairy tale, because all of this stuff, even the like Danny calling her mom, we're going to go and visit her family in these 5 issues too. So it's like a million little Easter eggs that are
getting you ready.
In some cases frustrating when you have it all crammed into one issue like this, versus maybe some of the later issues that focus in on 1 or 2 of these things instead of all 6 or 7. It can be a little more streamlined, and this can be a little bit jarring because we don't even ultimately need the Amara and Bobby panel there, because we're going straight to Rain writing a story, which we never knew she was writing, but apparently now she's a writer and she's writing a fairy tale. It's like, it's very jarring, this whole process. And I think that's the flaw of this issue for me, and the stuff that I struggle with the most, despite enjoying sequences that we've gotten through. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Could I touch on that? Just that last point that you made.
Yeah.
That also, like, for me, I thought that this was like, you're right, like totally jarring all over the place, right? But in a way, it's a lot of different hooks that came out at me, because there's a lot of opportunities for me to want to become invested in some of these stories. And there was enough for me from this to be like, I don't have to care about all this stuff, but I do want to find out what happens to some of these characters.
Yeah, so I actually like a lot of the. I actually almost prefer this stuff to the big story stuff, and so it's funny. I mean, you make great points, John. I love seeing these little moments individually.
It's about how well does it executed for you, right? How well
And
you
and I think
invest in all these hooks, right?
totally. And I think a couple panels, or in this case, even a page or two each is plenty. And many are going to call this a filler, and it very much is a filler type of
Or a setup,
issue,
right?
or setup. Yeah. But like I think this really pays off for the committed reader, the person who has really been paying close attention to all.
Because you're like,
little,
when is that Cloak and Dagger thing going to come up again?
Yeah,
when is Celine going to come up again? When is the Hellfire Club with their plan going to, all that?
So even if we don't, now you mentioned, we're going to get some of this stuff answered in the next 5 issues. Even if we didn't, it is a nice little, like, don't forget, just, that's right. This is where that character is right now. That's
right.
Mentally, that's where they're at the moment, or whatever. Or even just a simple, that one shot at the pool with Bobby being Bobby. Like, in my mind, I'm like, there's Bobby being Bobby, that dog trying to go after Amara again, like just that was in my mind.
Just like his dad, who's like, right. I don't know about these clothes and this Hellfire Club. And they're like, but there's maids. And he's like, all right, sign me up.
He took one look around. He's like, I'm ready.
A lingerie lady.
Yeah. Say no more. So anyways, so let's get into this last bit here, and then we'll talk about it as a whole. But as you mentioned, Rain is, sit down at the table. She's starting to write her fairy tale, which we obviously, talked about at the very beginning. And this is the last, 3 to 4 pages here. And I'll kind of just go over at high level, but, curious what your guys' thoughts are. But yeah, essentially it's Rain telling a story where she's the main character. And it's about, this, she's doing chores, but they don't really feel like chores. She's around the house, again, very Disney style, a lot of animals around. She says she spends her days, playing with the bunnies and petting, bellies and all that other fun stuff that you do with animals. And then out of nowhere, she has her Prince Charming show up, Prince Duncan, I should say, and he's wounded. And she's named her character Alistria. I think Alistria. She goes, he goes, Alistria the Shadow, and he's injured. And she's like, oh my God, who could have done this to you? And all he mentions is something about Silver Sorceress. That's all it's mentioned. And so she goes off and says, I'm gonna, whoever did this is gonna have to answer to me. And she uses her powers, turns into the beast, the wolf. And I want to get into detail here, but as a high level, she goes into this big city. She's very overwhelmed. She doesn't like it here. She runs into a taxi, which is, alive essentially. And the taxi has this New York accent and is yelling at her, says, what do you mean? No, I'm a hack. He goes, he says, sir, I'm a hack. This road's my turf. I got a right to be here. I got a right to be here. You don't. And yells at her. And basically she goes, listen, I need to help my prince. Can you help me out? And sure enough, the taxi tells him where to find this Silver Sorceress. And she finds it, which we see this Black Knight in the center page here, along with this beautiful white, lit up, or just really light, of what obviously is Cloak and Dagger, at least in the story, is kind of where she's getting this idea from. Why, we don't know. I mean, we're assuming it's from the previous stuff we learned. And then she has some really cool moments where she lashes out and attacks, the sorceress. And then she calls, what's the other one? The Baron, the Black Baron, which is the knight, goes to try to attack, and she kicks him. And then you get these really cool dark scenes of her with her yellow teeth turning to orange, turning to red, kind of showing blood as she goes and attack. And all it shows at that last panel is Rain, who's sleeping. And it says, it's a story. As a story ends, a nightmare begins. And that's how this issue essentially ends. So, a lot of kind of, heavier meanings, I think, behind a lot of this stuff. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it, because I think that one that I'll point out here before I pass it to you is, this whole time Rain has kind of talked about, she doesn't like being away from where she's from, and it showed it very much here. And just like we are in dreams, there's a lot of truths to our dreams or nightmares, even in this case. So I like that they put that she's in the big city. She feels very uncomfortable. She's being attacked by a taxi driver who has this outrageous accent, and that's just all these things that she, has in her mind. So, anyways, I want to get your guys' thoughts. So, John, I'll pass it to you first. What did you think of this fairy tale that we get from Rain?
I think artistically, this is where I think Sienkiewicz does some really fantastic stuff, but I think he's let off the leash, and I think that's that opportunity for him to really excel. There's a concept in the Matrix of residual self-image, this idea that when you go into the Matrix, you look a certain way based on how you picture yourself. I love that her residual self-image, or the image that she makes for herself, is this princess.
Yep.
She wants to be beautiful. She wants to be feminine. She wants to be viewed in a certain light, despite the fact that she is competent and can take care of herself. And you watch this princess, she can clean up after herself. She takes care of people. But look at her hair. It's this long, flowing red hair that she can't grow. FYI, if you don't know, the character of Rain does not have the ability to grow her hair longer. Part of her mutation, she can grow hair when she turns into the wolf, but when she turns back again, she's stuck with the hair at a certain length. And you can see that she wishes to be beautiful. She wants to be considered, aesthetically pleasing based on modern standards, right? And I like the way that this conceptual vision for herself and there's parts of her wants and desires buried in this fantasy that she's writing. And then, of course, there's some real thematic elements playing out here, right? With the Hellfire Club and the powerful, Black Knight in the Hellfire Club and the White Queen in the Hellfire Club. And you mix all this together and you get an interesting kind of metaphor. And I don't know why the taxi cab from Who Framed Roger Rabbit gets thrown in, but we'll deal with that a little later. I like that movie just fine. I don't know that it needed the cab here. But apparently Adam says the cab comes up in the Inferno saga later on, which I don't recall this at all, but if it does, that's phenomenal.
Oh, Inferno saga. I thought he was
Inferno is,
I thought he meant the Diablo storyline that we read with with Doctor Strange, but that I'm probably thinking way deeper than that when he said Inferno.
I was assuming it was Inferno, which is way down the line. We got like Fall of the Mutants and Mutant Massacre before we get to Inferno, which is
you're probably right.
Way off.
By the way, I had to shout out to Bobby. I love this. He said, "Are you making that up, Adam?" Good old Bobby. And Ryan says her hair is the length of Rachel Dinner's. Yeah, good point. That is true.
Because there's a storyline later on where they have mutant, collars that stop your mutant ability, and she wears one for an extended period of time and actually grows her hair out. Cool. But she was unable to do so at this point.
Interesting. I had that I didn't really realize as you pointed that out. So that's cool thing to note there. Dan, what about you? What are your thoughts here on how this issue ends and how we get this? We finally get into the Disney style storytelling.
I felt like it's really beautiful. I felt like you're right about making her, John, about making herself this this princess, this beautiful woman, or just rather anybody to write a story, or even just to have a daydream moment where you think about your ideal self and your the things that you want to be as a person, or the things that you can't achieve. John, you were talking about the hair. It's really touching to see that kind of side of somebody, to get that glimpse into their imagination. And and then her, some cool things that I thought in the imagery was all the panels are the thought bubble style. It's got the little wavy lines, and then she's hanging the cloths on the antlers of the buck there. I thought it was interesting that they had mentioned that she, where does she say that she gives love to like the little beasties, I think is what it had said somewhere. And I think that like she doesn't want to be afraid. Like they didn't have to say beasties because they're cute little animals, right? But I think that kind of insinuates she wants to be fearless, and you see that later as she's just like, she doesn't stand down to anyone. She doesn't run away from any of the conflict that she runs into. The city, the drop off on the pathway as she's walking down, runs into this taxi. Another insane Claremontism. Like you had mentioned, that was the first thing I thought of, the taxi from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And like he's so intimidating, and I don't really get why it helps her. Like they just kind of come to an agreement when it's like, what does it say? Like she just says, "Aid me, and I'll trouble you no longer." And he's like, "All right, but watch out." and so I guess it's just like it doesn't really matter. Like it just tells me that she's not backing down to anybody. Yeah. She and she won't take no for an answer. And maybe they see this fearless side to her, and they don't want to mess with her. So. Yep. maybe that's where she wants to get to. Yeah, and you know, I didn't know about the Cloak and Dagger tie-in, like you had mentioned, but that definitely was my first thought when I had seen these characters, right? It's kind of
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
But
her
we
and
also
that,
have the witch Celine making her appearance, and now we've got an evil queen witch here, and it's hard to know like what all this ties into, right?
Yeah.
That weird bracelet or amulet she's carrying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
yeah, I just thought that yeah, it was just a really like pretty or like just a touching little dream. I didn't even like really necessarily see it as like her writing a story as much as her kind of just doodling on paper and then just kind of like falling asleep, you know, to those sort of thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one other thing to add too, I think that again, we were comparing this to 140, 153.
53, yeah.
And I think that this, you know, storyline or the, you know, what Rain creates here has way more levels of feeling to it and emotion and signs of, you know, what's really going on in her world. Whereas, you know, that 153, again, not that this is not a fair comparison. These are just two complete different stories altogether. But, you know, Kitty Pryde was just like a kid just trying to lull another kid to sleep essentially, and just made up things and had fun with it, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think I have an extra appreciation for this one in this book because of the fact that it has all these, basically because of all the things you guys just pointed out. There's just so many layers to it, and it really lets us see how Rain views herself and what she views her friends as, and just what's truly going on in her world without her being able to say all that, because she hasn't really, you know, shared all these details of how she's feeling. So this is a great way to do it from a writer perspective. I think it's a genius way, you know.
She's able to be compassionate when she couldn't show that to Nightcrawler. She's able to be brave when she couldn't show that to Nightcrawler, right? So she's able to like put on that performance, or
it's
that
like
give herself those qualities. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's there. It's just she didn't like formulate it.
Great point.
So we got Ruben Guzman in the chat. What is on White Tiger? Cool, calm, collected. Colin says, this is true. In my daydreams, I have long flowing locks. Beautiful. Love it.
Same.
And Adam, yeah, you're right. He said, yeah, X-Men 240. Yeah, we're a couple seasons away from that. Yes, maybe a couple 2-3 years.
Push the patience button.
yes, that's right. We'll get there. Slow and steady. All right. There are
that's like the Inferno.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Before I do want to get your guys' general thoughts. John, what do you think? Should we do the general thoughts now, or there are technically 3 more panels that I want to?
We can show they're doing those fun character things.
Yeah, let's just show these real quick. So these 3 were at the end of the book, which is to me an even more of a highlight to this book and why I love it. To get these rundowns, I really enjoyed the first set that we got before. And for those who don't know, these are just little dialogues from. It even says it's private journals from Charles Xavier, and it's basically from his perspective what he views as these characters. And we get 3, and these are, in case you're wondering, these are full pages. Each of these panels are a full splash page, and again, kind of letting loose for Bill Sienkiewicz and so now we get Wolfsbane, Rain, the description there, kind of what she's going on with. One of the things he had pointed out was what was it? Oh, just something that he notes about her is that more and more she wants to stay in her wolf form, her Wolfsbane form, and that she doesn't, she's not really into people and doesn't like to, be in crowds and things like that. And she's just something he's observing from her. Not that it's right or wrong per se.
Which I don't know that she's ever voiced aloud, but we've seen her think, which, spoiler, invasion of privacy. Xavier, stop reading your kids' minds. Like, get out of their heads, dude.
Never
gonna
never
invade your thoughts, but I did notice that you've been thinking this a lot.
Yeah, and just a
Not
classic,
cool, dude.
classic Charles, classic Chuck. The middle one here, we get Danny Moonstar, which I noted in the numbers page, which we'll get to after. This is where it says Mirage. And John, we had pointed this out that Key Collector app stated that the last issue 21, it was her first Mirage appearance or as Mirage, but there was no sign, no mentioning, no nothing. And so I actually think again, unless there's something else I'm missing, I think this is the issue that should be marked
Fair.
as that, because
Yeah.
this is the first time, and it's not even in context to the story, unless you count, his journal as part of the story, which I guess you could. That's the only thing that's mentioning or a listing as Mirage there. So, he just again goes over a little bit of what's going on with her. She has her parents back. He does mention that she didn't wish to come here to my school, but when offered the chance to return home with her parents, she chose to stay. Over the past few months, I have earned her respect, and she has earned mine. So I like that little buttoned up thought there from
Sure.
Charles thinking about her. And then the last one, Amara Magma, just a little bit more reminding us that she comes from a totally different world, and the modern day world is not her own. So she's very much learning a lot of things as she goes along. But Charles does point out that he's happy to see her be friendly and make friends with a lot of the other school students and people around the town. And he hopes that by her making more friends, that puts her mind at ease a bit more. And because of that, she'll have gained more control over her powers that she currently kind of doesn't have full control over, which is pretty dangerous because she could just destroy a whole city by accident out of nowhere. So,
or the living room of the mansion.
Yeah,
when
which
she
is
makes a
fixable,
volcano
totally
erupt
fixable,
in the
John,
center of the school.
Yeah, they decided to keep it for a little because it worked out. It just looked, it worked out well. The design.
Sam Guthrie's way too worried about a wall when they erupted a volcano in the living room a couple of issues back.
Don't worry about it, Cannonball.
Yeah, I feel that's why Nightcrawler was so chill about it.
Yeah.
Did you see?
Yeah, you knew the type of damage we caused. Yeah, don't you worry.
So glad to have these in here. I'll pass it back to you guys. Dan, any thoughts with these just as a whole before we wrap up the issue?
Oh, I mean, like after reading that, it would have been, Danny would have been my answer for the leader. That would have been the smart answer right there.
Yeah.
No, I love these little bios from Professor X's perspective. The Wolfsbane explanation just totally encapsulates that story that we just read. How of course wants to be in her wolf form. That is her defense mechanism. That is her place where she can be away from herself and be somebody else. And be braver. That's. I mean, and then the art, the perspective of the Mirage shot. It's just so cool. Like, I noticed this little circle. Like, you may not be able to see it here. Like,
no, we see it right
on her head.
Is that like? Would you say that is more like a sunbeam kind of a?
That's how I took it. Yeah, it was like a
going
glare.
on. Okay. Just like really, really cool. And like, and he doesn't even like her head is like not a circular shape. It's just like
he gets away with it. Yeah,
so works. Well. Yeah, like really cool. Really cool. I really dig these.
In reference to the circle, I know that when he did the Demon Bear storyline, there was a lot of that like zeroing in on highlighting things that he was using the circles as a way to draw the eye to certain things.
Yeah.
And he did it with the necklace or the pendant that was in the last pages. I think he uses those kind of like as like focal points. And so it's interesting that he picked the feather for that.
Yeah.
This is creepy for me. This Danny or this Rain.
Oh, that is a little creepy.
The pose and then her dead, lifeless black eyes freak the crap out of me. It looks like a character from a video game that's gonna like haunt your house. Like I just can't. The Annabelle
her head's gonna turn around, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Totally
not good.
Vibes.
Not good. I don't need that pose. I don't need the eyes. Like that one bugs the crap out of me. Also, I don't know where Magma's other arm is. The way that it's done,
it's melted into her hip.
It's just gone. It's just gone. There's no other arm. I see an elbow, and that's all we get. No,
that's how Magma works, John.
But yes, Bobby, 100%. I want that Danny. Give me the Danny.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I agree. Bobby asked, which would we want as an original piece? I definitely.
Yeah, that would be a good call.
Sure.
All day.
Colin says, I love that Magma page. Absolutely. All right. So let's just get final thoughts here. I know we're running a little longer here, but for a short issue, leave it to me, John, right?
No, I definitely ran the mouth tonight, so I'm sorry about that.
No, but that's what's great about this issue. I feel like there really is so much to talk about it, and I really love it. And I'm curious to hear your guys' grades for this and so I'll pass it to you first, John. Final grades and any final thoughts you want to throw at this book.
I think I enjoyed this more in a discussion with you guys, but the first read through again after so many years, I was very frustrated with the issue's choppiness, and I did feel like it took a while to get to the fairy tale portion that seemed to be the focus of the issue, and so for me, like, I scored it pretty low overall. I was giving it like an 8, 7.5 even. Like, it was, for me, it was just like choppy and
respectable. That's
entertaining, and that first those first 3 pages are easily my favorite. Those Nightcrawler sections were so excellent that was what kept me going. And then it never got back there. So I was always like flipping the page, like, oh, we'll get Nightcrawler again here soon, right? Nightcrawler is going to show up here soon. No, that didn't work out. But overall, as a setup, knowing, having read some of these before, not all, but most of, I'm able to look at it and say, like, oh, she's talking. It's important that we see her talking to her mom. We're going to be on the Indian reservation here soon. It's important that we're seeing Celine. We know that's going to come up here in a little bit. So I could appreciate what was happening. I just wish it had been a little smoother. I guess it would be the way to say it.
Fair. All right. And Dan, what about you? What are your final thoughts, and how would you grade this on like a CGC scale?
Sure. I mean, John, if you gave it a very fine or a very fine minus grade, that's pretty damn good. I mean, if you ask me.
I'm usually usually we're hitting a lot of 8.5s, 9.0s, like 9. We did I think it was a 9.4 all around last time we chatted.
We've been up there. Yeah.
So this feels hard. It feels harsh.
No, I hear you. I say that, like, it's, for me, it actually like surprised me how much I really enjoyed reading it. And I think I used to hate, and I just always remembered hating the multiple storylines to cover. Especially, this is kind of actually like around the time when I was reading, the X-Men through 300. I started to, because that's always been my focus, is Uncanny X-Men. And so when I was reading it, I was learning I had to read across these other issues to understand exactly what's going on. Eventually, I just scrapped it all because I'm like, screw this, dude. I'm not going to buy all of these comics. And there's like just so much I want to get through. I want to get to this next, I want to get to the Inferno part, right? Yeah. So I just decided I'll figure it out along the way, or it's okay if I don't understand everything. Back to this specific issue, I think I can handle a little bit of that now. Because it had been so many, I was like 21 or whatever when I had originally read him, and I didn't have the patience. I didn't dig it. But he really, Claremont Sienkiewicz really drew me in on this one. So I probably would have normally said this is more like a C, or like on a CGC scale, I'd say that's like a 6. But I really liked how they focused in on the insecurities, and like, to me, losers are way more interesting than winners. And you see their development, and I love that. And I really saw it play out in this. So I would end up giving it like an 8.5, like a B+, something like that.
Yeah, my man. I love it. I love all the things you guys had to say. As I shared earlier, like why I love this. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this, and I laugh because it's like, these non-superhero-y books are the ones why I love the mutants so much and the X-Men so much, and what Claremont does. Ever since I started reading Claremont, this was just so different than your typical, capes and heroes versus villains kind of thing, because you had so much different drama and emotion and relationship building throughout these characters that we know and now love. And we just get so much of that here. Just check-ins, just little check-ins on each of these characters, and a quick reminder of where we left off with certain things. And, between that and the majority of the artwork, other than the Kingpin line that John had pointed out, which I didn't really notice until John's good at doing that, pointing those things, brings it down just a little for me. But no, but like,
that's another way to describe that.
But like the Danny close-ups in some of the other panels, obviously some of these here, like, that all, just does so much for me. So, your boy's going to go up high here. I'm going with a 9.4 for this book. I think I could read I think I could read it all day, and that's what I judge, my books on. So, just my enjoyment of that, and what it does for me with these characters, and again, for those who are very much in the long game with these characters and these books, I think a book like this, it does help, you appreciate things a bit more. So, I'm going to go with a 9.4. Bobby, going 9.6. I mean, I could even do that with you, Bobby. 9.6 Nightcrawler White Gloves pages. I love it. So there you go. One of these days, John, we're going to have to go through and just like, I'll go through and just look and see what the grades were we gave
just
for every
chart everything.
issue. Yeah, and then really look back, and then you can call me out and be like, Justin, what were you thinking when you gave this a 9 point whatever? Like
sometimes you got to go back and regrade your comics.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah,
true.
I definitely aim high most of the time. But anyways, let's get into the numbers real quick here before I know we still got questions, so don't go away, folks. Real quick, 9.8 consensus on a Go Collect CGC scale. Fair market value $65 for a 9.8. I mean, that's not too many in comparison to what we've seen.
No,
61,
not at all.
And then only 17 coming in as a 9.6. So I could see how this is not really one that people want to want to slab. And I think even for the story itself is probably something you want to read and see the insides more than anything else. But who knows? If I saw this book for a 9.865, I mean, it probably would be hard to find since it's a solid black spine and cover, probably harder to find that kind of type of condition. So I respect it for that. The one key element I noted was that I think this is the first true mentioning of Danny's name, Mirage, in this red page at the end of the issue that we were just talking about. So that's what I'm sticking with. CGC, they got it debatable. They're gonna have to work on it. Yeah, debatable. Hey Dan, if you know of another issue where it's mentioned, please let me know, because we read the one prior to this and we didn't see it anywhere.
What I mean is like, because I would probably consider it to be in story as opposed to like,
okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Like, so meaning not yet then, in other words, hasn't come out yet then.
I think that it'd be worth a note, like first mention of I don't know. It's but I hear what you're saying. It's just I usually associate like key moments or key names, key appearances as
like used in the story.
Used within the story, recognized by all the characters.
That's fair. And if that's the case, then it's not this or the issue before. And that was the issue that John and I had the problem of, it was being said that last issue is where she became Mirage, and there's no mention of it. So that was where we were confused, really just kind of questioning, where did they get Mirage?
You said that the last issue they did name her?
They did not. Well,
no, the last issue is the one that Key Collector says is when she takes the name Mirage. But there's no mention of the name.
No, we read the issue.
It's kind of a weird. I think it's just a Key Collector flub, personally.
And that's why I said this is a shocker to see Mirage's name here, because technically this is the first time we actually see it mentioned or typed out.
Okay. Well, it's definitely noteworthy in that context for sure.
Yeah. So something to keep an eye on. I mean, we'll see as we keep reading on. Maybe we'll see Mirage's name come up again, and we'll have to keep note of it. So, all right.
I didn't know that.
If you guys are good, well, let's jump into the questions here, and we'll take this stuff down. So again, if you guys are not familiar, we're getting ready for the questionnaire here, so stick around. We are going to ask questions based on last issue, which was New Mutants 21. We are looking for 2 correct answers. So if you see someone else write the correct answer, and you be the second one to copy and paste it, then go ahead and do it. Even if you don't know the issue or didn't read it, you could still get a point, and you're trying to get your name on the board, because we do a big prize wheel at the end that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. We'll be doing that in June to be giving away a bunch of cool prizes, including an artwork commission piece from our good friend Rosko from Geek Out with Rosko. So we will, and then of course we're also looking for 1 incorrect answer. So if you can make Dan laugh, Dan, you're going to be the one to pick which of the incorrect answers is the funniest or most stands out the best to you. So be ready for that. I
got to pull up the chat. I'm using my phone, so I got to press this.
I'll highlight them for you.
Okay, yeah,
and we'll read them out. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Go ahead, John. Were you going to mention something, or do you want?
I was just going to say, like, I still also have a Marvel graphic novel, New Mutants, first, number 1, first print. I'm going to give away as well. So that's a really great New Mutants book. If you're just getting into New Mutants, that might be a great addition to your collection. So be ready for that as well.
Great point. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah. My first question has to do with the very beginning of the issue. As the ferry is coming into the city, the dock workers find something in the water. what do they find in the water? So there's a ferry coming into New York, and then they see something in the water. What is it? New York in the harbor there. You can find all kinds of things.
I have a lot of,
it could be
some ideas.
It could be all kinds of things.
This is a layup for some of you folks with some funny answers. This is definitely a layup. Okay.
Right.
I do see the correct answers.
Yeah, I'll take Old Wolf and Conlon. I think those are the first two I see.
Yes. So
it is. I wrote
the
body of the incandescent man, but hey, you do you, brother.
Yep. Body counts.
So I got Conlon, and I got where is my man? Old Wolf. There you are.
And then let's see. So for some funny ones, he says Conlon says a classic cartoon boot.
Classic cartoon. Yeah. By a fishing pole, I'm sure.
Yeah. Magic Lasso says a sexy hat.
Hey.
Yes. Or some hats.
All right.
Let's see. We had Candace who said Aquaman. Wait, what's he doing here?
Rolling back.
Yep.
DC. What?
Nobody keeps that fish.
Oh my goodness, we got Michelle in the chat. Moonlit Comics. It's been so long, Michelle. Great to see you. She says a banana for scale in finding in the water there. Nice answer.
Fair.
Let's see. Conlon says, John, stop trying to make the incandescent man a thing.
I mean, it's real. That's what that comic book creator says is the guy's name. Oh, he's incandescent.
Yeah. Adam says master mold. No, we couldn't find master mold. Dan, any of these your favorite
cartoon boot? Cartoon boot.
Cartoon boot?
Classic. It's a classic. Okay. Yeah.
Diana Ross tickets.
Let's see, who was that? That was Conlon with another point.
That was Conlon. Very nice.
Doubling up.
Bobby said Miss Ross's wig.
You take that out your mouth.
Let's see. Michelle said, I came in at an interesting time. Sending love to all. Thanks, Michelle. We appreciate it. I hope all is well. Gotta catch up sometime. All right. My first question. We're good, right? My first question. Where did mine just go? I just lost everything here.
Incandescent man.
Here it is. Okay. My first question is, what was Sam trying to protect throughout the issue? There was something that Sam was trying to protect throughout the issue. If you guys recall, there was a cool team up, but Sam had very much a priority from the very beginning of the issue. What was he trying to protect? I see it already. So yeah, Tony says it's a hat. Yeah, there was a fancy hat that he bought his mom. And he wanted to make sure to gift it to her, and the whole time he was trying to get it to her. So Ryan is the other answer. So we have John, we have Ryan, and we have Tony.
Tony, you're on another stream right now. I don't know how you're winning points on this show
again
while being on Marcus's channel at the same time.
Does Marcus know?
He's a pro.
Marcus is really aware. It's all
he knows. He
gets to sit over there and drink, and then watch our show and not listen to anything Marcus says.
Yeah, he just blocks him out. So I love this answer. Matt in Clemson says his Mark Jewelers. There you go.
Now.
Playing to the judge.
Right there.
That's right. He's been trying to protect his Mark Jewelers. Nice answer there. Conlon says he's trying to protect his lunch money. Yeah, I mean that's important. Got to have that. Let's see.
Another Council of X friend.
Candace says his huevos.
His huevos. Protect the huevos.
At all times, yeah.
Ryan says his virginity. Trying to protect his virginity this entire time.
I think it's pretty safe at this point in his life.
Adam makes stuff up. Says he's trying to protect his parking validation ticket. I mean that sucks when you lose that thing.
Yeah, so they won't accept anything else.
Yeah, it's important. Bobby says he's trying to protect his family's values. I mean, you gotta. These are important things.
Represent.
Ryan says he's trying to protect his cannonballs.
That's good there. There you go. Yes.
Dan, any of those a favorite or something that made you laugh there?
I like the virginity one. That was a good one.
All right. All right. Yeah. We'll go with Ryan Magic Lasso. Protecting his virginity.
Carrying the episode.
All right, John, go ahead. Your second.
Yes. While shopping for the said hat, what is it that stuns Sam when making his purchase? What is it that kind of blows Sam's mind when buying the hat?
Thank you, Ryan.
It's yes, Ryan dropping the starting line. I appreciate you, sir. Holy cow, the same guys. Tony, you are a god. You are able to accomplish so many things.
Sales tax is correct. Tony and Ryan. Tony and Ryan back to back again.
Good Lord. It's like they knew the question I was going to ask.
Matt, they just beat you out, man. They hit the
sales tax
just a little.
Sam is stunned that the price of the hat is actually going to go up at the purchase because of taxes.
Yeah.
Dude.
He's a young guy. He's trying to figure life out. Some things are complicated.
Candace said that Sam was surprised that Nightcrawler bought the same one.
He's a swashbuckler. I can see it. He does a lot of sword play and things. It makes sense.
Ryan says that he was surprised that Jackson Roy Kirk wasn't there to see him buy the hat. Yeah.
Jackson Roy Kirk. Jackson.
Conlon says surprised that he had inflation in the hat market out of control.
Buck wild.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Any of those there, Dan, that stand out?
The Nightcrawler hat. That's great.
All right, bought the same one.
Love that. Yeah,
nice job.
And speaking of, if I'm from Oregon, so anytime I travel outside of the state, there's no sales tax here. If you didn't know, in Oregon, so anytime I go outside of the state, I am just as taken aback
like Sam.
When you're like Sam. You're exactly like Sam.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. All right, my last question, and the last question of the evening. Other than being a hero, what else was Spider-Man trying to do while he watched Sam battle the Incandescent Man? So remember, last issue was a Marvel team up. It was Cannonball and Spider-Man. What else was Spider-Man trying to do other than being Spider-Man and essentially save the day and be the hero? There was something else on his mind, something else, another goal that he was trying to do while the battle was going on between Sam and the Incandescent Man. What was it that he was trying to do? Hey, we got Circumstances in the chat. There he is.
There's Marcus.
Also live streaming right now.
I think he just finished.
Did they just wrap up? Okay, yeah,
I think so.
Good to see you, Marcus. Let me scroll back up here because I do see. All right. I'm going to take. So I have Conlon and Ryan, right?
That's what I got.
Pictures. Yes. So he was trying to take pictures of Cannonball. He was trying to get unique. Spider-Man was like, his boss didn't like the typical pictures he was making, so he wanted to try to, change it up a little bit and get some other action shots. So he was, prioritizing taking photos on the side. Meanwhile, Sam's like, running for his life, and trying to fight this monster on his own, just a kid, So that was pretty funny. So those two are on the scoreboard there. Let's see. Adam says mentoring Sam. I mean, that's
in a way,
in a way, that's kind of accurate there. Candace is taking selfies. I mean, kind of. I mean, he was taking photos of himself and others.
Might as well.
Let's see. What was I gonna say? What else was he trying to do? Bobby says his job. He's trying to do his job. He was trying to get rid of that blasted wedgie. Matt from Clemson.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean those are
tight costumes.
I hate when those things happen.
Yep.
He was trying to do his income taxes while he was fighting. I mean
multitasking.
I like it. Let's see, he was trying to hit on the pilot. I don't blame him. Conlon, you're not wrong. There was a pilot involved, and she was cute. She was cute. Yeah, she was cute. So not wrong there. Wash his underwear. There you go, Tony. I'll throw that one out there.
Long underwear.
Long underwear. Dan, any of the Bobby says he was trying to make friends while that was going on. Any of these here that you like?
Yeah, I mean, blasted wedgie. It's the blasted. Did the wedgie. If it was just a wedgie, it wouldn't have done it. But the blasted, you got me.
You got to get descriptive here. So that is Matt and Clemson on the board for the night. Nicely done. All right, gang, that is it. I know you probably want more show from us, but hour,
2 hours, 2 hours for one episode, one issue is about all we're going to be doing, gang.
Dan's like, what did I sign up for?
Yeah,
These guys
yeah.
are
Little
so
do you know,
funky.
he's like, I
Yeah,
gotta stretch
you're making me read
next
New
time.
Mutants.
Yeah. I'm making you take old X-Men issues out and holding them up and showing them in the camera. No, hey, we want to thank our guest, Dan. Thank you so much for being on the show, being a guest. We love you, dude. Really appreciate
Dude, thank you.
everything
Yeah,
do over with Ryan Colossus Collector, and yeah, just happy to have you on the show.
sweet, man. Yeah, no, thanks so much, guys, because it was like a book club, and like I feel like every book I read, comics included, for the most part, you give it a shot, and you like it more than you think. I just forgot because I really haven't done any reading in a long time, except for just like something that comes along that I'm told I should, an indie story that I should read a quick,
Yeah.
one shot or something. So so this was great. I really appreciate it, and it's opened up. You guys have opened my mind a lot, so I really appreciate
Love
that.
it. Love it, man.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you, and yeah, but it's always a better time when you're talking comics with friends. So we appreciate you joining us. Again, for anyone that's with us now, or if you're watching the replay, again, if you haven't followed Dan or reached out to him, make sure you do so. His Instagram link is down below. Definitely always sharing some really
love to
cool
chat.
mature collections and talking X-Men. So definitely reach out to Dan. And then as another reminder, we're going to be on John's channel next Tuesday, 9:00 Eastern. So make sure you are subbed up to John
Sweet.
as well. His information is down below. John, you have a ton of content out there. I love what you're doing.
Trying.
So, yeah,
I want to mention if you're reading this in the omnibus, the next book is X-Men 189, which we've done in a previous season. So if you want to refresh on that one, which goes next chronologically, you can jump over to the playlist for Omni X-Men last season and scroll down to 189. We're obviously going to be skipping that because we've read it already, but it has to do with Amara and Rachel breaking into the Hellfire Club. So if you remember that one at all, we're going to kind of get a little bit glimpse of that and then jump back to we're doing issue 23. So New Mutants 23 is our next issue.
Yeah, it should be another short one like this one since we only have one issue.
The ex-wife podcast is joining us for that.
Oh yeah, Alicia and Justin. That'll be good. We'll have a duo here with us for next week. So yeah, be ready for that. I think I am going to take the time to reread that issue, John, that you had just pointed out, because now it makes a little more sense to me from what we had done from last season.
Hopefully,
189, because I didn't even know Amara. I was like, what? Like who? Like where did Amara come from? It all was like out of context. So I might dive back into that, before next week as well. So yeah, as Ryan says, Rachel Dinners. There it is. So I have New Mutants 23 from a Christmas giveaway from Dan this year. Oh, nice. There you go. Awesome. Good stuff. Lines up perfectly. So all right, gang. Well, we appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. And until next time, we will talk to you later. Peace.